Okay, welcome back to the channel, folks. And what you're looking at there, that is not a design or a rough sketch of a Bowie knife or a machete. That's actually a side view, a rather exaggerated side view drawing of what my boat will look like. And I decided to kind of make a video here explaining to those of you who may be finding this channel for the first time, hey, my viewership's actually going into double figures. Yeah, great. But anyway, I wanted to kind of explain the way that I designed this boat and why I've designed it the way I've designed it. And as you can see, the boat will actually have a kind of a wedge shape to it here, where it gets taller and wider, depending on your perspective, as we move towards the bow of the boat. So right about here in this area, I have a bulkhead, and that would be that bulkhead right there. And that bulkhead is actually located 9 feet from the stern. And so the bulkhead at that point, and the gunnel at that point, I should say, is actually 1 inch taller than it is at the stern of the boat. So it kind of grows as we go forward. But also, moving down here to the bottom of the boat, and I'm building this boat with a little shallow V angle. We also have an increase in the dead rise angle as we move toward that 9-foot bulkhead. And I'll show you that here in just a moment. I've got another drawing for that. Now, there's a reason why I did this, and it has to do with another boat builder that I found on YouTube when I first started designing my boat and first started getting into or toying with the idea of building a boat. It's a young man by the name of Timmy Turtle. He has a YouTube channel. He's out of Australia, or it might be New Zealand. I'm not sure which one, but he built a boat that with a more of a straightforward design and kind of more of a boxy design to it. And it's a flat bottom skiff. And he actually, it actually does what he intended it to do quite well. And but he built his boat, like I said, a little bit more of a boxy design to it as you go forward. It just makes a sharp turn here. This is all flat right here, and then this just makes a sharp turn, and there's another flat piece that goes up towards the tip and the top of the bow right there. And like I said, it does what he intended it to do, and it does it very well. But he did point out in one of his first videos, after he launched the boat, that his boat does tend to sit low in the water here at the bow. The bow does sit noticeably lower, even with the weight of the outboard here on the back end. And that's just because the boat just tends to seek its own level, just because of the shape right there. And so that was the reason I built that wedge shape into my design, was to kind of offset that, because any boat is going to sit low at the bow. And that's just because as you start to make this curve up towards from the bottom of the boat up towards the top of the boat at the bow, you're going to lose some buoyancy. And, all boats will tend to sit low at the bow. And so, I'm trying to offset that a little bit, by building in that wedge shape. Like I said, it's going to be 1 inch higher. This gunnel height at the 9-foot mark is 1 inch higher than it is at the stern. Also have a deeper dead rise at that 9-foot mark here. And let me show you what I mean by that. At the stern of my boat, now remember, these are not to scale. At the stern of my boat, what I did is I found the center line, measured out 26 inches, then measured up 2 inches, and then drew a line. That was my dead rise angle at the stern. Now, get to that 9-foot mark that I've been talking about. Did the same thing. I measured out 26 inches, but at the 9-foot mark, I measured up 3 inches, increased that dead rise angle a little bit, and then did the same thing. Drew a line between those points. I don't know what that angle is. That was the way that I measured it out. I've actually put a protractor to it, but I don't remember what that angle is. But what that does cause is it causes your ribs each one of your ribs are going to be different. This rib back here at the stern end, for instance, because the floor is going to be parallel to the top of the gunnel, this rib is going to be shorter than this rib. This rib is going to be shorter than this rib. This rib is going to be shorter than this one, and so forth and so on. In other words, the ribs get progressively taller as you go forward. And so that did present a little bit of a challenge, but when we walk over here to the actual ribs that I've made for this section right here, and I've got them laying on the table right here. Let me move this template out of the way. You can see kind of a little stair step right there. And that is because what I talked about, as you go forward, each one of these ribs gets taller. This is actually, this rib right here is actually going to be placed more toward the aft end of the boat. And then this is the one in front of it, and then that's the one in front of it. I don't know if you can see that real good, but you can kind of see that little stair step right there. And then the same thing for the height of the rib, the overall height. And again, you get that, you can kind of see there from the side, kind of that little stair step right there as each rib gets taller. And I've just got these stacked on top of each other. I've got 3 of the 4 ribs made for that section there after the bulkhead. And I know I covered this in a previous video. But it's real easy to establish this angle, even though I'm changing the dead rise angle as I go forward. Remember, I made a live drawing, a full-size drawing, and just drew out where the floor was going to be and where all these corners were going to be on the drawing. I was able to figure all that out. But anyway, what I do is the first thing I do before I start making my lines for my saw, my cut lines, is I establish this width. And remember, I said the distance between this point and this point does not change. The bottom of this boat is going to be consistent. The bottom width is consistent, for the entire length of the boat up until we get to the bow area. But that's another video for another day. And that's going to change as we go forward to that bulkhead, but we won't get into that right now. But I establish these points 51.5 inches apart, and then I just draw a straight line. Use my straight edge, draw a straight line, connect those points, come over here to my drawing, and this point right here is this lower corner of the rib. And then so I just take the measurement between this corner and the bottom of the rib, and that would be the bottom of the V. That's this point right here. Move that camera around so you can see that V. And then, I've already got a line drawn across here, and then I just shoot that measurement and put a point right there, and then draw a line between that point, that point. That establishes the dead rise angle for that particular rib at that location. It's the same thing for the height of the rib. Come over here to this corner. That's this corner. Measure up to the top of the rib. Measure up to the top, and then again, I just put a point here, and come over here and do the same thing from this point. Remember, I covered that in previous video. Go straight up. Don't go up. Don't follow the angle, but just go straight up. Put a point here. Come over here, do the same thing. Measure straight up. Put a point here, and remember, you've got a line across here, so you're going to measure up here. So you're just going to connect those 3 points, and that establishes the height of the rib for that station. So sounds easy, doesn't it? But it really is easier than it looks, because you do have some dimensions there that don't change. You do have some angles there that are constant. So once you establish those constants, then you can just kind of work around it. And, I can figure out that dead rise angle for each one of those ribs and figure out the height for each one of those ribs. And it's actually pretty easy. It's just all geometry. Boy, it's been a long time since I took geometry in high school. But anyway, That's about all I have for you tonight. I did not get to do any work on the boat tonight, but I just kind of wanted to explain to you how I go about taking measurements off of a two-dimensional drawing and then turning them into 3D and transferring those measurements over to the plywood. And I just want to make a little brief video and show you how I did all that. So anyway, I am going to call it a night. I'm still kind of worn down from that trip to Houston yesterday, 10 hours on the road, and I'm not 30 years old anymore. So folks, just remember, I love you guys, and I pray for you, and I pray for our nation, and I ask you to do the same. Pray for our nation, pray for your neighbors. And it is now that time where I say, be blessed, behave, and it is now time for me to be gone. Good night. Thank you for watching.